Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, the place where Karens seem to think that people are born to serve them, employee or not. And in this episode, we've got Karens assaulting customers, getting banned from stores, confusing 17-year-olds as surgeons. It's a wild ride. I hope you enjoy the stories. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I'm an Asian girl who went to a Chinese restaurant. You can see where this is going. I was wearing one of my favorite dresses, which is blue with sunflowers on it, while the staff was wearing black button-downs, black pants, and an apron. Clearly, in no way do I look like an employee. I was on my way to the bathroom when a guy from a table full of dude bros shouts, "Hey, we need more water." I just ignored him and continued to make my way to the bathroom. The dude then has the nerve to grab my arm as I'm walking away. He says to me, "Hey, did you hear me? We need more water here." Now, I was pissed that he had the nerve to grab me, so I say, "I don't work here." The dude bro nonchalantly says, "Oh, well, you look like you do." He then turned his head back to his companions in a "we're done here" type of motion. At this point, I'm not only pissed that he grabbed my arm, but also so unapologetic about assuming I work there, given that I was wearing nothing close to what the staff was wearing, and most people would at least throw in a quick apology. So I decided I wanted to make him squirm. I then calmly said to him, "I'm not wearing a uniform. Why did you think I work here?" Hearing me ask that, Dude Bro's friends are looking around uncomfortably. The guy's now sweating, and he says, you just look like a good worker, that's all." I then ask him, "Why do I look like a good worker to you?" Me asking that, the guy broke at this point, and he begins stuttering, saying, No, I saw you clearing some glasses before from a table," which was a blatant lie. His friends then look away, and I say to him, "Don't you lie, I have not cleared a single glass from any table since coming here. Next time, don't assume and never effing grab a service worker again." The dude was red-faced, clearly embarrassed. As I'm walking away, I can hear his friends laughing and taking jabs at him for letting a little Asian girl destroy him. During the rest of dinner, I caught him shifting uncomfortably as his friends would not let it go. He ultimately threw some money down on the table and he left without his friends. You know what, guys? Sometimes you just gotta let people have it right then and there. And I'm so glad that OP stood up for herself there and, to top it all off, embarrassed the dude in front of his friends, who then continued to give him crap for it and finish the job. I have to tell you one thing for certain, that I never expected to have a story to contribute to you. Many of these posts do seem fake to me, but I'll never take them for granted again. This story has a Karen, a Ken, and two very sweet young ladies. For context, I own a corporation in financial services and insurance that requires me to primarily meet with business owners on a regular basis. I'm providing products that businesses are required to have, and these are big dollar financial service and insurance products. About 90% of my business is in my office, but about 10% of my clients I'll visit in their shops or homes, especially really top-level clients. On this day, I stopped by one of my clients' places of business. We'll call him Eddie. Now, Eddie owns a fancy artesian donut shop that's very popular and has a line around the building every single day. With that said, I came near the end of his rush, and I set up some papers and my laptop to the right of his register while he finished the short line that was left. He checked people out on the other side, and I was really not near the donuts or the customers, and I thought nothing of it. This becomes important in the story. I should also tell you that I'm a 450-pound guy. Like, I'm big, really big, and I'm proud of it. The name calling and stares don't bother me. So as I waited and continued to pull up the info I'd need for Eddie, he went to the back to grab some trays of donuts and told the next customers in line, Karen and her husband, that he would be right back. Apparently, Ken and Karen did not want to wait, as shortly after, I heard the ever-so-famous ahem a couple of times, before finally looking up at them to see who wasn't responding to them. I didn't think they were trying to get my attention, but they were. I didn't even get a word out, and Karen blurts out, "How about you just get off your fat ass and help out? We need half a dozen glazed," and the other guy disappeared. That's when I say, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I'm not an employee here. He just went back to grab some new trays of donuts. He'll be back in a few minutes. And honestly, I wouldn't have the first clue on how to help you. I'm sorry." At that, Karen just chuckles out loud, rolls her eyes, shakes her head, and looks at her husband with a "he's full of crap and being lazy" look. Her husband Ken immediately turns his head to me and he says, "Look, buddy, we just need 6 donuts. It'll take you 30 seconds. Just go put them in a box and ring us up, and then you can go back to lounging on your stool." I respond in kind, "Well, buddy, again, I don't work here, and I have no idea how to work the register to help you." Karen, now standing behind her husband on her tippy toes, looks like she wants Ken to go MMA on my ass. She then looks up and says, "Who's your boss? Was it that guy who went to get more donuts? Or do you have another manager?" Again, I tried and said, "Ma'am, I own my own company. Now listen to me, I'm in no way capable of ringing you up. I'm here on personal business with the owner, Eddie. He's the same gentleman that went to the back, yes, but he's not my boss. I really do not work here." Just then, Eddie comes back out. He slides the new trays in and asks Karen and Ken if he can help them. Karen, leaning hands and wrist first on the counter, says to Eddie, "Yeah, you can help us. You can stop hiring lazy-ass people who don't want to help your customers. What do? Pay them in donuts?" Now, this made Eddie very confused, and I spoke up and said to him, "So yeah, this woman thinks I work here because I'm behind the counter. I tried to tell her I didn't, but supposedly I'm too fat and lazy not to work here or something." Anyways, they want half a dozen of something. Eddie then turns to Karen and Ken, shocked at how they were being so rude. They then start to speak, but thankfully, the 2 customers behind them came to my defense. They were the only other ones in the store behind Karen and Ken, and they heard the whole ordeal. They start speaking up, explaining that these people were awful, rude, and just plain mean. Their words were more colorful, I assure you. After hearing that, Eddie simply kicked them out and told them to not come back. Well, the husband wasn't quite done though. As he left, he turns and says, "Thanks so much for your help, you fat F. I hope you have a heart attack before you turn 50. I'm 53, by the way." His wife screamed, "F you" at us. They then left without incident. I would have loved to quip back with something like, "Yeah, buddy, but I'm not the one buying donuts, am I?" But unfortunately, my wit that day was not as quick as it should have been. Oh, I hear you, OP. I'm also a person who can't produce quick, witty responses in the time of need. But I will guarantee that a quick, witty response will pop into my mind at 3 a.m. when I'm laying in bed awake when I least need it. And hey, it's also nice to hear that Karen and her husband are banned from one of the best donut shops where OP is, though. That's pretty satisfying. Firstly, some background. I was visiting a nursing home in the middle of nowhere, Utah. I lived there for a few years, and I was a college student studying programming a few cities away. And since I know my way around a computer tainted by a certain individual's propensity for adware, I was often asked to take a look at PCs that were running slower than usual. I'm visiting my grandmother in the home, who really can't do much, and before I moved here, I lived in California. So the story goes is my grandmother says that she would like to use Facebook more, but the community computer is very slow, and the IT there is hard to reach, so there's nothing she can do. The computers are behind a counter in the middle of the building near a hallway, and I can easily imagine this to be a receptionist station at one point. But you can tell it isn't because the people behind the counter are older, typically in a wheelchair and hooked up to nasal cannulas to oxygen tanks. I sat down at one computer and I immediately saw that there's search bars, favorites, and shortcuts and copies of shortcuts, slowing the PC to a crawl. I then mentioned to the staff that I noticed the computers were really slow and asked if I could clean one up, delete some unneeded shortcuts, clear the browser cache, run diagnostics, the good stuff. The jargon does spook them, but I convince who I presume was a manager what I meant. She then says go ahead, and if I wanted to check out the other PCs. So I consider it my good deeds for the year and begin to debug. Eventually, it's around mealtime, and most of the old-timers are away at the cafeteria. So it's just me at the counter, playing on my phone, in between working on a few computers. Most of the staff are with the old folks, or they're on their own lunch. I jump up when someone zooms around the counter with an old guy in a wheelchair, and she slams her palm on the counter. I look up to see a woman, looks like your average mom, and she looks livid with me while gesturing at this poor old guy. I'm worrying because the man's foot is purple, it's poorly bandaged, and there's blood dripping from his toe onto the floor. The lady then screams at me and says, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm just stunned, and I say, excuse me? She then screams at me and says, "My father's foot has gotten worse. Look at it. It won't stop bleeding. He needs surgery right away." She then wheels him around the counter, more blood dripping everywhere on the floor, the man spewing like a faucet. Seeing that, I scramble out of my seat, still stunned, and I say, you should get him a nurse, like right now. The woman ignores me, pushing him closer, behind the counter, right into me. I then scream at her saying, "What are you doing?" She then says to me, "A nurse can't help. He needs surgery right now. Look at how much he's bleeding. He's dying. You want my dad to die?" I just scream back and say, "Do I look like an effing surgeon to you?" The woman raises her voice even louder and says, "He needs surgery now or he'll die." I just look at the poor old man and he's completely out of it. The man is slurring something about seahorses. I just remember it made no sense. Meanwhile, there's a pool of blood on the floor. By this point, the staff were running down the hall. They came as I began pointing at my clothes and screaming, "Do I look like a surgeon to you? Do you think I'm gonna put him right on the table here and operate even if I was? What the hell are you thinking?" The woman was in hysterics. She's yelling at me, screaming that her dad was going to die and it's gonna be all my fault. And then she went into babbling about other stuff. I had no idea what she was saying. I was too focused on the poor guy that she's trying to joust at me. The staff and another guy not in uniform run by at this point, while she's saying, "He needs it now, he needs it now," and separates them. The old guy gets wheeled back by one staff, and the lady gets pulled towards the foyer by the other staff and the guy, who I presume is security, and a nurse apologizes profusely to me. After that, I just step away and make my way to the back door for some fresh air to process what the heck just happened. And I can see the woman being held back by nurses. I found out later that she was a resident and they both had some kind of dementia. That man wasn't even her father. Unfortunately, my grandma passed not too long after this, so I never came back to have the experience of seeing this lady again. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie guys, I never expected that twist of an ending. Like OP getting accosted by a resident never even crossed my mind, you guys. And really, that's a sad story all around because dementia is an evil, evil disease and it's very, very sad what went on there. And honestly, even if she didn't have dementia, it's easy to see how anyone would panic over anyone with a swollen, bleeding, purple foot. That lady was clearly trying to help the old man, so yeah, completely understandable. So I've been working IT for 15 years. So dealing with people who don't want the answer you gave them is something I have to deal with every single day. So it's a Friday, about 7 p.m. I'm tired from a long shift, but before going home, I pop by the local Home Depot to grab some things for a project I'm working on. I'm just getting the stuff I need when I hear someone yelling. And being the curious dude I am, I take a peek around the corner. I see a dude, and he had half a shopping cart full of stuff, yelling at a poor kid. And the kid can't be older than 18. The first thing I think of is, holy, another a-hole abusing his power as a customer and yelling at this poor employee. So I continue walking towards them, checking on the items that are close to them, clearly eavesdropping. And I hear what's going on. The male Karen is yelling at this poor kid, getting right into his face saying, "I can't believe how bad you and your coworkers are at doing your job. I ask where this item is, and I was told to go to this aisle. And then I go to this aisle, and the item's not even there. How stupid can you all be?" I then hear the kid say, "I'm sorry, sir. I can help you look for that item. No problem." The male Karen then says, "I don't care about this item anymore. I want to talk to the supervisor. Nobody here is of any help." And this is the point I step in. The male Karen and the kid stay quiet as I'm a really big man. Not muscle big, but tall and fat big. I'm always the tallest in the room, and with a shaved head and beard, I don't really have a friendly face until I smile. I just step in, face the kid, and tell him, "Don't worry, you're okay." I then turn around and face the male Karen. The guy looks at me completely scared. He tried to step back, and that's when I grab his shopping cart and said, "You're not going anywhere, dude. I heard everything. This poor kid doesn't have anything to do with his coworker giving you the wrong aisle number. So what are you doing yelling at him?" I then say to him, "So one of two things are going to happen right now. Number one, you are going to apologize to this kid for being an a-hole and then leave. Or two, you and I, well, we can settle this right now. You and I can go to the parking lot because now I'm involved." The dude then starts shaking and he went completely quiet. I turn around and tell the kid to go ahead and call security. A supervisor and security come. The kid and I tell them what happened. I got the kid's back, he's got mine, our stories matched. There was nothing left out of the picture. The security guy then asked if I really asked the other guy to go to the parking lot to fight. And I said, yeah, if he didn't apologize to the kid, we were going to the parking lot. I then look at the guy and I say, that's how I settle things with people who want to bully others. The male Karen at this point is speechless. We were then told to go our separate ways, as this was more of a minor incident in the store involving 2 customers. The male Karen left while I stuck around. They all thanked me for my help for defending the employee, but they weren't happy that I was about to fight the guy. I continued doing my shopping, and I never saw the dude again. I still stop in the store all the time, as I do have projects on the go. And I still see the young kid there, and he's told me that he's never seen the male Karen ever again. Guys, OP is a freaking hero in this one. Like, just imagining the guy who's yelling at the poor kid, getting yelled at and scared crapless by OP really does make me smile. Like, I just love stories where kind strangers come to help others who are getting harassed. I absolutely love it. And really, I hope the guy learned a lesson that day to never yell at strangers again, because you never know who might be watching. Yesterday, my girlfriend and I were grocery shopping at the ungodly hour of 5 p.m. when all the yuppies make their pilgrimage to Trader Joe's. I was wearing an ill-fitted handmade shirt that looks like something that was made by a child. Trader Joe's employees wear t-shirts with Hawaiian motifs. With that said, my tried and true tactic for Trader Joe's has always been to make a beeline to the sample counter and then wander around grabbing impulse buys until I find my girlfriend, who will then ask where the heck I managed to find 12 kinds of gummy bears in a health food store. So as I'm wandering through the aisles with no particular purpose, a middle-aged woman in a yellow dress kept edging up to me and standing expectantly. I would almost immediately move away because that's how wandering works. My wanderlust ended in front of the coffee shelves as I breathed in the aromas of all the potential bean juices. There was an African-American employee stocking tea on the bottom shelves next to me, and we were completely happy to ignore each other until I heard someone ahem behind us. Karen's voice was heavily accented, so at first, I didn't even understand what she said. She basically said, "Hey, where's the tomato paste?" The employee then turned in his crouching position to answer her, but he only got half a word out before I felt a long nail tap my shoulder. The employee and I then gave each other this awkward glance, and Karen's voice escalates to the shrill that's reserved for angry customers who have come to their wits' end. The woman then screams at me and says, "Tomato paste, where is it?" I turn around and the lady looks peeved. Now, I've read enough I Don't Work Here Lady stories to know exactly why, but I still sometimes have misguided beliefs in people's common sense. I say to her, I really don't know, but this guy should be able to tell you, gesturing to the employee. The employee starts trying to explain, but he gets interrupted again. Karen gives him a side eye and says, "No, I would really rather you show me, because you are white." That cues me to exchange another, even more awkward look with the employee. I then say, I don't work here. Karen then looks at me and then looks at the guy in his corporate brand t-shirt and khakis with her racist gears turning in her head. She then wags her finger in my face and says, "You can't show me? I don't deal with black employees." At that point, the employee talks over her and he told her where the tomato paste was. Karen just ignores him. She turns to me with this oddly pleading look, as if his answer was going to lead her down a dark alleyway somewhere. I then say to her again, "I do not work here, I don't know." Her expression turned into a sneer as she laughed without even acknowledging the employee. She then went to ask a white employee at the end of the aisle. The employee and I then exchange a last final awkward glance goodbye, and I walk over to my girlfriend and I relay this story to her, and this is where we decide to get back at Karen. My girlfriend, who also happens to be black, hatches a revenge plan. We then proceed to follow the Karen around, with unnecessary escalating amounts of PDA. The woman was looking through the produce aisles and we thought, hey, let's just stand there for way too long where she can see, nibbling on each other's ears. The woman gives us a snarling, disgusted look, while we just follow her around a bit, trying to annoy her. You get the idea. This continued until checkout, where we lined up behind Karen and we made unignorable purring noises. The woman had been giving us scowls and looks of disgust, but by the time she got to the register, she looked a little unhinged. She was slamming groceries into her cart and basically yelling at the cashier at this point. Now, I wish there was a tidy way to wrap up things to this story, but the woman just left in a hurry, and I honestly hope that she keeps her racist self out of my health food store. Holy, is that ever some disgusting behavior, Karen. I don't deal with black employees, so clearly she would rather ask someone who has no knowledge of where anything is in the store. What OP and his girlfriend did were awesome though. I love that little revenge they pulled off because you know that Karen was fuming. So this happened in the early 90s. I went to elementary school with a girl whose family owned a successful small chain of Greek diners in town. We'll call her Tanya. When we started high school together, her family let her have a small lunch party at a location by our school that was also in a very wealthy neighborhood. We were 14 years old, all gangly elbows and giggles, while Tanya graciously ferried our orders of mostly French fries to and from the table, to keep one of the waitresses from being bogged down with a non-tipping private party of sugared-up teenage girls. That's when in walks Karen, who marches straight to the hostess, and she announces that she'll need their biggest table for her family's lunch. The diner was hopping as it was prime lunchtime, so the hostess told Karen that it would be at least 30 minutes wait for an 8 top. That's when Karen launches into a tirade about how her family's parking, and the hostess has 5 minutes to find her and her family a table, or she's calling her personal friend, the manager, to get her fired. Hearing that, the hostess is stunned, and she tries to stammer out something apologetic, but Karen walks right past her to survey the tables. Karen immediately spots our group in the back, and she tells the hostess to clear out those stupid kids and reset that table for her family. The hostess refuses, and she tells Karen that she'll have to wait like everyone else. At this point, Karen's losing it. She's screaming at how she'll have everyone fired. It's gone dead silent, and everyone staring at her. Karen's family's starting to filter in behind her, and they look confused, probably feeling emboldened by having backup. Karen then proceeds to march to our table, and she snatches the basket of fries and drinks off the table, and she throws them in the nearby bus cart, yelling at us that we're done wasting the restaurant's money and that it's time to go. Most of us just cringed away from her, looking confused. But Tanya, still carrying a basket of fries, got right in Karen's face. She tells Karen to go away and stop being rude. Karen was waiting for this apparently, and she chose to double down. Karen then pulls out her ace card, and she says, "Do you know who I am?" And she claims to be the owner's mother, right in Tanya's face, and tells Tanya that she could kiss her little waitressing job goodbye. Tanya then stares this cow down, and without looking away, she yells, "Hey dad, Yaya's here to see you." Her dad then pops his head out of the kitchen, looking alarmed, and he says, "I hope not, she's been dead for 6 years." You should have seen the look on Karen's face. They ended up leaving. And really, that's the best thing they can do, guys, because really, how can you come back from that? Like, there's no way you can sit down and enjoy your meal after pulling that stupid ace card out of your sleeve. Like, I just love Tanya's response. "Hey dad, Yaya's here to see you." Frickin' awesome. I work for a local government office in a small town, pushing paper. Now, I'm not required to, but I do try to help people out who come in while the secretary is out. We occasionally get some interesting people in here. This was one of those times, and it happened about a year and a half back. I was working on something when I hear the front desk's bell ring. I go up to the front desk and ask the man how I can help him. The man said that one of our workers were really mean to him and he would like to make a complaint. I tell him the street department head's not in, but I can try to relay him the details, and also he might have a better luck at City Hall. I'm very clear this whole time that this actually isn't my job, but I don't mind helping. The guy then starts describing the incident. He says there was road construction and he completely blew past a road closing, and the workers who were in the road yelled and swore at him, and they were essentially mean to him. He actually said something about him not being sure the sign meant it with regards to its closure. I recognize the area because I'm around there quite a bit, and I tell him that work on the road was actually being handled by private contractors. So not only is this report not my job, but it's not even government employees that did anything. The guy then screams at me and says, "But can't you do something? Surely you can't be this useless. Do I need to get your supervisor?" And that's when it hits me. I then ask him, "Wait, you're telling me that you violated a traffic regulation, and it even sounds like you endangered workers by zipping through there. And then you went into a government building and effectively made a confession. And on top of that, you want us to punish non-employees and also punish me? Someone who can do nothing about your complaint? You realize that you could be the one to get in trouble if you pursue it, right?" My tone was genuinely cautionary. I was not really trying to accost him or anything. The guy's face goes white and he just says, "Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry I even came in here. Have a good day." Because it dawns on him what he just tried to do. He then rushes out of the office. The guy didn't seem angry, but he did seem to realize that he was in the wrong. I don't know if that poor fellow followed up at City Hall after that, but I'd reckon not. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/ IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed that last episode on the channel, it's an r/ entitled People episode, where a Karen sets a house on fire because the person refuses to obey her. It's such a wild story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.